This is Robert with Pioneer Smokehouses, and today we're going to do a spatchcock chicken on the Masterbuilt charcoal bullet smoker. Now, first thing we wanted to do was I emptied out all the internals for the smoker. Go ahead and open the lid and take off the door. Set that stuff to the side. We're going to take and we're going to set up a charcoal snake, but it's going to be a little bit larger than what our normal charcoal snake is. And as I've mentioned in other previous videos, the charcoal snake is the best way to control the temperature in this smoker, and the reason is because there's no air input regulation mechanism. The air flows freely around the outside edges of the bowl. So go ahead and put this in here. And then I'm going to put in a stack of 2 wide and 3 tall charcoal briquettes. Enough for what I think is going to be right around 4 hours worth of briquettes. So I'm done organizing the briquettes, and I'm just going to go ahead and show you a picture here. The first picture is just the briquette stack, and then the second picture, I want you to notice that there is a small piece of wood down at the beginning of the charcoal snake, and I kind of like to use that as kind of an igniter. So when I pour the charcoal on top of that, it'll really help because that's where the fire will get started. And the wood does catch on fire faster and burn faster than charcoal. So I'm going to go take care of a charcoal chimney, and then I'll be right back. So I've got the charcoal chimney going nice and good, and I'm going to pop a picture up here so you can see what I saw about 60 seconds ago. And the way I know that it's ready is by the white ashes on the outside edges. Then I'm going to go ahead and feed it in manually and just stack it in there exactly like the charcoal snake itself. There is a couple of match lights on the very bottom, and I'm going to put them in last so that way they will burn before I get the food in. Today I lit the charcoal chimney on the side burner of my propane grill, and that is my favorite way to do it. It's very efficient, works quick, and then there's no extra waste, just burning a little bit of propane, no problem. However, I always put in a few matchlight charcoals on the bottom to kind of get it going well. The unfortunate problem with the matchlight charcoals is the longer you leave the bag open, the more of the lighter fluid that actually evaporates, and so they don't perform as well. They still do burn a little bit quicker and get going a little bit faster, so I have no problem using them on the bottom as an everyday thing, but I do also want to avoid having the food directly with them. Now I've went ahead and loaded this with all that charcoal piled on top of that wood block and the very end of the charcoal snake. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of air with my blow dryer trick so that way it'll get going a little bit faster. But first, I'll pop a picture of it right beforehand here, and then I'll go ahead and I'll hit it with the blow dryer. This is an old extra blow dryer that I had laying around, but you can buy these at the thrift store for a very reasonable price, and they are great for stoking your fire. Always leave it on cool and then on low, and then if you want to reduce the amount of airflow, you can do this as long as you don't have the heat on, and that'll slow your airflow down to prevent ashes from going everywhere. I try to avoid doing this when there's food on it because the ashes still will kick up a little bit, but if you absolutely must, you absolutely must. So first, let's go ahead and do that. Put my hand over the back. And we're going. You can see the fire stoked right up there, and I'll go ahead and grab a picture. So you can see it burning with the flame really well, and it's just going right along. We do want this to go ahead and burn so all of those original charcoals can completely burn out, but that's also going to give us time for the smoker to preheat. Next thing I'm going to do is I want this to preheat also, so I'm going to go ahead and set that one in there. Notice that I did not put the second grate in or the drip pan. When I'm doing poultry, I like to get the temperature up, and I don't mind if there's a little bit of flare up from the oil dropping down. My only concern is hot spots, and that might be something that we have to live with on today's cook. I might actually knock the snake over when I want to finish it to make sure that the temperature is even, but I will be rotating the bird. Go ahead and set this on here. I'm going to leave the door off for a few more minutes. It will start to heat. Let's talk about the bird itself. First thing I did was, before I went to bed last night, I made myself a simple brine. That brine consisted of 4 cups of water, 1/4 cup of kosher salt, or any other non-iodized salt will work fine, and 1/4 cup of the seasoning that I was planning on using. I only used the Cosmo Dirty Bird seasoning, but I also put some onion powder and some rosemary on my bird, so that would have been a nice addition also. I made sure that that was all hot and mixed it all together so that way the salt would completely dissolve into the water. I cooled it on the counter for about an hour, and then I put it in the fridge overnight to get down to refrigerator temperature of less than 40 degrees. When I got up this morning, I went ahead and opened up the bird and put it inside a pan in a cooler with some blue ice and some milk jugs full of ice that I had frozen previously for other uses, like anything I put in the cooler for camping or whatnot. I took the bird and I covered it with the mixture and then rinsed the mixing cup out 2 times to add roughly another 8 cups of water to the brine solution, so that way the bird would be fully covered. Now keep in mind that the 1/4 cup of salt was plenty of salt for a total of 12 cups of water. And got it all mixed up really well, so I stirred it around a little bit, and then I closed the lid and let it sit there for a total of 6 hours. At about the 3 to 4 hour mark, I flipped the bird over so that way the breast would be on the top where I started it on the bottom. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to keep the breast completely submerged all of the time. After I was done with that, I took it out, and this is very, very important. If you don't want a salty bird or any other food that you've brined, you need to make sure that you rinse it well. I took the bird, I rinsed it off, I dumped out all the liquid, rinsed the pan out really well, and then flushed it good with cold water. So that way the bird would be completely flushed and there would be no salt sticking to the outside. Of course, the brine performed its process where it pulls out the water out of the bird, and then the water sucks back in to the bird, including the flavoring and some of that salt, of course, which is going to make it taste even better. Now this is supposed to do flavoring and retain moisture in the end, but if you go short on that brine process, you'll actually dry it out. So it's better to go a little over than a little under. Then next, I took the bird and I went ahead and spatchcocked it. What this basically means is that you cut the backbone out completely. Then I come from the back side, not the breast side, with a heavy-duty chef's knife, and I bust right through that backbone just down far enough that I can lay it out flat. After I spatchcocked the bird, I did one of my secret tricks, and that is to take an ice bag and put it right on top of the breast. You're just putting it on the breast, not on any of the other parts, so you don't need a huge ice bag. But the idea is that the bird's going to start to come to room temperature, but where that ice bag is on the breast, it will not. Then I moved on to seasoning. From there, I put a light coat of seasoning on the top, flipped it over, put a heavier coat on the inside or bottom. Then I flipped it back over and filled it in to make sure that anything that got knocked off was completely filled in. If you want to just start on the inside, you can do that, but I like to do it the top first and then come back and do the top a second time because I want it to really get tacky and stick on there. Then I went ahead and I placed the ice bag back in just right in the center, put it on a platter, and put it in the fridge to rest while I started the grill. Now, that ice bag will still keep the breast cooler than the rest of the chicken. Let's check and see if this is just about ready. And we're showing a preheat temperature of about 200, and we're going to need to get a little bit higher than that. Today's goal cooking temperature is 325, roughly for 3 hours. Let's go ahead and put the door on this, and then I'll go in the house and get the chicken. So the temperature is moving up nicely. The gauge on the top is showing 225, but I know that that's significantly off, so it's probably closer to about 275. I went ahead and I custom fit one of the grill mats to fit in this smoker. It's slightly smaller than the other two vertical smokers I have, so I just went ahead and took one of the Masterbuilt electric smoker ones and trimmed it down a little bit more. Now, when you buy one of these, you buy an oversized one and you cut it to fit exactly into your grill. And I'll go ahead and show you this. You can see, cut it so it fits just like that, perfectly, right in the middle. Now, of course, if you use the full-size one, you could cut it completely round, and that would be fine. But I never really go off the edges anyway. I'm usually in the middle part. So let's go ahead and get the chicken. Here we have the bird, and it's all covered and all ready to go. I'm going to just grab it by these two legs here and slowly lay it down. The goal was to try to keep it in the middle as much as possible. Now, looking at it and feeling how the heat's coming off, I'm a little concerned that it's coming off of one side. But again, I'm going to rotate it around about every 30 minutes so that way the heat, wherever it's burning directly from, does not stay focused on that spot on the chicken. Another thing that you could do is put in that second grill grate and then just take a piece of tinfoil like a half moon and put it over there, and that would protect the bird from having direct exposure to that heat or flame. The block of wood is still burning, so that is going to be causing a little bit of that char flame kind of effect. But that's okay because we want that in the taste of the bird. I'm going to go ahead and cover this so that way it'll get cooking. I want to talk about one more thing. Now, we need a thermometer in this, and I was thinking about doing the wired probes, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to see about putting in the temp spike. But I'm going to stall on that for 1 hour because I want to be able to move this bird around as much as I want. And so I feel like if I wait, then that temp spike won't be in the way. And the same thing with the wired thermometers. I like to wait until I know that the thing is well on its way to getting started and I'm in a position where I can leave it that way for a little while. So we'll go ahead and take a break, and that should be about 1 second for you and about an hour for me. It has been about an hour and 5 minutes, and while this has been smoking, I've been doing yard work, and I'll tell you what, between the smoker and the yard, it is way too hot out here. So let's go ahead and take a look here at the bird. And we're running it just above 300 degrees. I was trying to go for a little higher than that. And you can see what's going on here. Looks nice, a little dry. I might spritz it a little bit. My favorite thing to do is to actually put a light coat of olive oil on it. I have my Lightning Thermo Pro thermometer. And I really like this because of how fast it is. Now I'm going to put it in the thickest part of the thigh right here and just try to miss the bone. And right there. Wow, we got 157. We are moving along a lot faster than what I was expecting. Let's go ahead and hit the breast. And we're at 130. All right, so we got a little ways to go. I'm going to go ahead and before we put the lid on, let's go ahead and do this. I brought out the temp spike and I plugged it in for a few minutes, so we're going to hope that it's going to work okay. I'm going to put that in right here. Really important that you don't hit any bones and you have to get past the line. I buried that line pretty good, so I'm not worried about that. If you get it too deep in there, sometimes this will interfere with the temperature there. I'm going to set that down, put the lid on. And we've gone through this before, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but I'm going to go ahead and pull up the app. Let's give it a minute. It's showing information, and there it is. We're going to change the profile to poultry, 165 degrees. Tells us the instructions for inserting the probe, and it tells us to set the dock close to it so it gets a good repeat signal. And it's showing an internal temperature of 115, and the lightning showed a little bit higher temperature, so I'm going to think that it's actually somewhere in between. And so I'm going to keep that in mind as it cooks, that I might want to be careful not to go to this temperature. One of these two is probably out just a little bit, but we can check that really quick. Take this and put it in right next to it. Okay, so now we're showing 125, so I'm thinking that where I hit it, I must have hit it in a spot that was a little warmer, and so it's possible that this one's closer than I thought. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to let that work. I'm going to come back and I'm going to spray that down with a little bit of olive oil to keep the surface moist. You could use your favorite glaze. You could use some barbecue sauce with a little bit of broth, like chicken broth, and whatever you like. I like to just go with a little bit of the olive oil. I don't want to change and water it down or add any other flavors to it. I just want this flavors and the smoke from the charcoal. So we'll be back in another second for you. I'm thinking that's going to be about 45 minutes for me. It's been almost 40 minutes, and we have an internal temperature on that thigh of 145, and the temp spike is showing an ambient temperature of 252, but we're getting an ambient temperature of 300 on the thermostat. So because I put the temp spike in so deep, I'm thinking that this is probably closer than the temp spike. Now we're going to go ahead and pop it open, and I'm going to try to get another temperature right next to the spike so that way we can compare them. I did rotate the bird, and I also rotated the lid a little bit so that way the air would flow across the smoker. The main heat source is right over here right now because we've burned around, and we're starting to get to the point to where most of the charcoal is actually lit. Trying to get this in as close as I can without touching the other probe, and we're showing 147. So the temp spike is actually pretty close. Just we have to get it in the exact same spot to get a uniform temperature reading. And now I'm going to take one on the thigh. I'm going to tap the bone and then go right next to it. That shows 180, but I think I went too deep there. 170 there. So the thigh is technically done. But don't worry about the thighs drying out because you can hit them a lot higher temperature than you can the white meat. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this and I'm going to go ahead and flip it. I did spray it down lightly with a little olive oil spray, and basically you just give it a light coat, and that'll keep that really nice and moist, but you'll also see that it dried up and crisp just a little bit. Trying to avoid rubbery skin here. I'm going to go ahead and go in the house and grab a spatula, and then I'll flip it off camera. It's probably going to be a little ugly, so we'll just do that when nobody's watching. So I'll be right back in 1 second for you, but that'll be about 15 minutes for me. So it's been about 10 minutes since I flipped that bird, and here it is right here. And I'll go ahead and throw a picture up there so you can get a better look at it. Now the next stage is that I want to get that skin to crisp up a little bit more. Adding that layer of olive oil really helped out, and it's going to turn out really well with that little coating. To get this temperature to even out and crisp up the skin a little bit, we're just going to move the charcoals around and level them out a little bit. when we do this, because they're all burning, the temperature is going to increase. It's also going to give that skin a little bit of a char, and you can see there in the camera there's a little bit of fire flaring up a little bit because, again, we gave it a little mix there. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the door back on. And we're going to run this for another 10 minutes. After that 10 minutes, we'll pull the chicken out and let it rest in the oven. So I think this is where we want to be, and that internal temperature of the temperature spike is showing just above 161. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the chicken from the smoker now. So to flip it, I used a pair of tongs and a metal spatula. I could just get underneath here and then secure it with the tongs so that way I know I wasn't going to drop it. Dump that a little bit. And I'm going to set it right here on this cutting board. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the temp spike. And I'll just set it to the side here because I need to wash it as soon as it cools down. Now let's go ahead and we'll cut into this chicken, but first I'm going to flip it over. Spatula under here, grab it with the tongs, flip that over. I brought out my Victorinox boning knife because it makes nice, precise little cuts. This is the straight one. I use the curved one for trimming things like brisket. Look at that, and look at how juicy that looks. I'm going to go ahead and cut this right here by the knuckle. And just like that, straight through. That was a pretty nice cut. I'm going to go ahead and cut right alongside the bone there. Try to get a piece of that skin. Chicken skin is always a challenge to deal with. Okay, I got a little bite here. That includes a little bit of meat and a little bit of skin. Show you that. It's really hot. Need just a little more meat to go with that. I want to make sure that you see how juicy this is. You saw it come straight out and without a cut. You saw me cut it. So this is exactly how it's coming out of the smoker. The skin is kind of medium. It could be a little crispier. Blowtorch, broiler, something like that. Let's go ahead and slice this. Do as I say, not as I do. Let it rest for another 5 minutes. Okay, but I'm not going to let it rest because I want to get this going so you can see what I got here. Cutting right next to the, I think it's a sternum or whatever. It's a bone there in the middle. I'm going to do a slice right out of there. Let's see if we can grab that. Look at that. Done all the way through. Look at how moist that looks. See it all on my fingers? Let's get a bite. Okay, that is perfect. Wow. That is so moist. So I think we're done on today's video, and basically we had another successful cook on the Masterbuilt charcoal bullet smoker. I'm very happy with how it's performing. Again, I had to alter my method for how I deal with the temperature. Basically using a charcoal snake, which is a minion method, and piled in the amount that you want to burn to alter your temperature. I've learned that 4 pieces of charcoal stacked 2 by 2 ends up getting us around 200 degrees, and 6 pieces of charcoal stacked 2 by 3 high gets us around 300 degrees. That right there will get us consistent temperature, and then by the amount of length, half the bowl will get us about 3 hours, and the full bowl will get us about 6. Of course, you have to allow for a few minutes there for lighting and preheating, but I've already minus that off of that figure. So that half bowl with the preheat is 3 hours. So if you saw anything you liked in the video, I have affiliate links for everything below, and that does help the channel, and it won't cost you anything extra. If you don't need anything, at least check the price on this smoker. That'll help the channel too. It'll show traffic to Amazon. Also, I am a ThermoPro affiliate, so if you want a ThermoPro, buying it from ThermoPro direct is the way to go. And I gotta tell you that I had a problem with my first temp spike, and I contacted them, and immediately they sent me out a replacement. No questions asked. They just asked me what the problem was, and I explained it to them, and they were like, we'll have you out another one. 3 days, I had a brand new one in possession. I was very happy with that customer service. So again, thanks for watching, and have a great day.